20 years ago, the party that launched an impeachment investigation won the White House 2 years later. If that should happen this time, the leading Democratic candidate is Elizabeth Warren. I think you had Leon Cooperman on here a few days ago saying the markets wouldn't open if she won the White House. So I think it's a political risk issue. Maybe this will be a wash, and it won't help either side. But I think it certainly raises the uncertainty level a lot. I think that's what markets are seeing. Does it make it less likely that President Trump wins re-election and we have a Democrat get in office who wants big wealth taxes and massive new spending?
Dan, Jim may be getting a little ahead of where the markets are right now. We're looking at the Dow futures indicated down by 2 points.
Yeah. So let me just take a different task. The Republicans chose to impeach Bill Clinton. They were headed for a 40-seat win in that midterm election, and the Democrats ended up winning 5 seats. So impeachment actually hurt the Republicans 20 years ago, and that's the risk the Democrats are taking by entering this fight. In the short run, it means it's unlikely that NAFTA is going to get through. If you remember last week, Nancy Pelosi went on Jim Cramer's show saying that she wanted to get to yes on NAFTA. That's probably going to move away, but that creates an opportunity for the president. He can now go to Michigan and Wisconsin and say, I negotiated a better deal to make your families better, and they're worried about impeachment. So you could see how this becomes tricky politics. I always thought getting NAFTA was important while we wait for something on China. And that seems less likely today. I wouldn't also be surprised if the president acts unilaterally on drug prices now that it looks like there's going to be no deal between the Democrats and the president.
Can I ask either of you to weigh in on the idea that this process, what this process does to the talks with China, what China's thinking right now in all of this?
Andrew, I would say it's mixed. But if you remember, we were making very good progress on the trade talks until the Mueller report came out in mid-April. It feels like Xi was making a bet on political dysfunction. Some of that had subsided over the last few months. You've now re-engaged that. Both sides, though, are hurting, so they need de-escalation. And I would argue the president would want to do something on China to show that he's governing while the Democrats are playing politics with impeachment. So it cuts two different ways.
But does this play into the hands of President Xi in that President Xi may say to himself, I'm just going to let this play itself out?
Exactly. Exactly. It's a possibility, Andrew. Absolutely. Once he gets past October 1st ceremonies in China, he could just walk away. No doubt.
Right. So there's that point. He says, "Listen, I'm really just going to wait it out." Or if the president feels desperate that he makes a deal, then you re-engage and try to drive a harder bargain that basically ignores all the stuff that the White House supposedly wants beyond just purchases and IP. All the stuff about restructuring and getting rid of the subsidies and the made in China, all that stuff falls away.
Let me just ask Jim a follow-up of Dan's point about NAFTA potentially not making it through. We know that this action potentially slows just about everything else happening in Congress. But when you start thinking through to what that can mean very directly, NAFTA not making it through, the White House then taking unilateral action over drug prices, how does that play out in the markets, and what would concern you the most?
Listen, NAFTA is a risky deal. There was work left to be done on getting NAFTA through, on the new NAFTA, or the other thing it's called, which I can't pronounce. There was work to be done. And UMSCA. But without that, and the risk that, remember, the president of the past has also threatened again just to pull out completely of NAFTA if they didn't get this through. So, I mean, that's I would say, a huge deal. There is massive uncertainty. The White House press secretary said, we're not going to work with the other side now that this is going on.